Cliff jumping from an ancient stronghold, sunset views from a mountain cable car, drinking pristine water from a 600-year-old fountain, and sitting on the Iron Throne of the Seven Kingdoms.
This is Croatia.
Welcome to the Meander Travel Podcast, episode number 31, and part 2 of our grand adventure in Croatia. In part 1, we discussed Istria and Plitvice National Park, and in this episode, we will cover Split, Hvar Town, Mostar, Dubrovnik, and Kotor. So come along with us as we explore 5 cities in 3 different countries and share how you can have some unbelievably gorgeous experiences in and around Croatia. Wheels up.
We're gonna be two hearts running wild.
Well, maybe that intro didn't go as well as we exactly thought, but
No,
it was kind of fun.
It was fun.
As usual, thank you for joining us today. We look forward to our time together every 2 weeks or so to hope, that we can share some fun travel things with you all.
Yeah.
I'm one of your hosts. I'm Tony, along with my beautiful wife, Julie.
Hello.
And we're thrilled to relive with you one of our most beautiful and memorable trips we probably have ever taken.
Yes, we really wanted to do a podcast about Croatia because we think that a lot of people are intimidated by travel to Croatia, or maybe they just don't even know that much about the country in general. And it sometimes doesn't come to mind as a vacation option like some other European countries do, like Spain or France or Italy. However, Croatia has just as much to offer, and it is so incredibly picturesque that you would never regret planning a trip there.
And cheaper in a lot of ways and a lot of times. So, I think what a lot of that is people think of France and they've heard so many people traveling for so long, family members, different things, France, Italy, Spain. It's easy. It's something that we have so many more tours and packages for. But Croatia is kind of sounds like, oh, it's a little exotic. It's Croatia. It's something different. It's an Eastern Bloc. It's different.
What do I do there?
What do I do? How do I do it? And I think people get stuck on that a little bit.
Yeah.
But it has become it is a destination, at least for a lot of people in Europe to go to, and more so now for people from the United States. But absolutely, Croatia is a playground for nature lovers and hikers and beach fanatics and divers, but it also has so much more to offer than those, that want to appreciate history and culture and food. So let's dig into it, Jules.
Okay, well, let's start with where we left off. So, part 1 of our road trip left us at Plitvice National Park, which was just stunning. So, from there, we hit the highway for the approximately 2.5-hour drive to Split, which is the second largest city in Croatia after the capital city of Zagreb.
And it's not the one that everybody's heard of, mostly Dubrovnik, but Split and Zagreb being the capital is the biggest. But then
I
Split
had
is...
never heard of Split until we started doing this
Really?
travel planning. I don't think so.
Anyways, Zagreb being the capital, by the way, is one city that we did not get to in our grand tour. We call it the Grand Tour of Croatia, but really it was an adventure tour because we didn't get up into the inland area where Zagreb is, but we will get there someday, hopefully, on the next time. But as far as drives go, I have to mention again, because I think I mentioned it the first time, how much I loved driving in Croatia. Yeah, here we go. This was by far my all-time favorite highway ever. It was so smooth. It was like butter, just driving and so fast. Julie, it was a toll road down from when you get on the A1. There was a toll down to Split, and there was nobody on the road. I mean, nobody, no trucks, no cars, and it was a very expensive. The tolls were real expensive. I think it was like $40 when it was all said and done.
That's why nobody was on the roads.
Right. I think that the locals, they take a alternative route. They don't get on this because they don't want to spend that kind of money on their own toll roads. So it's for people like us that want to get to the next place because we're on a time frame. And thank you, everybody, for getting off the road because it was awesome.
But also the money they make on those tolls, they obviously put back into those roads because they were just perfect.
Perfect. Not a bump anywhere, not a seam, nothing. Anyways, it was a lot of fun when your wife and your daughters are sleeping and you want to test out the high-end rental car that you got. So we got it up to a speed that we won't mention on here, but it was It was 3 digits, and it was
This is why you never want to purchase a rental car for your own private car, like if it comes out of a rental agency.
oh, it was fast.
But don't think that you weren't fooling me. I mean, I might have been sort of asleep, but
You were
I
asleep.
knew what was going on. But it was a smooth ride and there really wasn't that much traffic, so I let it go. But so another thing that we found so interesting on this drive was there is massive quantities of cheese and honey stands that we passed along the way from Slovenia to Split and then Split down to Dubrovnik. It was crazy. And we thought, how much cheese and honey can travelers along these roads eat? Or the locals for that matter. And how can each of those many, many stands make a living on selling on this particular road when there are so many of them? So because of this, we thought it was kind of cute. We named this the Cheese and Honey Highway.
Well, eventually curiosity got... See, we had seen a lot of these coming from Slovenia down towards Plitvice. And then when we were on the highway going to Split, we didn't know if we were going to see any more because we were kind of leaving that area. But while they were sleeping, I came across this one. We hadn't gotten onto the toll road yet. And I pulled off. It was this gorgeous view up on the top of a hill, mountain kind of area with gorgeous views and a little stand out in the middle of nowhere. And the car stopped and Julie kind of woke up and she's looking like, what are we doing? What's wrong? And she looked out her window and saw the honey and cheese stand, and she's like, oh. So we got out and we bought a ton of stuff. It was awesome.
Yeah, so it was nice because the woman gave us samples, and so we were able to try all these different flavors of cheeses and honeys, and then she recommended which honeys went with what cheeses and whatever. We ended up walking away from that stand, and there weren't prices displayed. We're like, oh, we'll take a couple of
We'll
those.
take this, we'll take
a
that.
couple of those, and we thought, I don't know, $20 or something. No, we paid over $40
Yeah,
in
that's
cheeses
how
and
there's so
honey.
many stands because they only have to make a couple sales and they're good.
Highway robbery. But it was
But it was
delicious.
It was worth it.
We supported the local economy. But interesting fact. So I was really curious about why there were so many of these stands, and I did a little bit of research. And as it turns out, this whole region is famous for their honey, and Slovenia in particular has more beekeepers per capita than anywhere in the world. And the beekeepers on the Istrian Peninsula, the area that we covered in part 1, they applied for and were granted a PDO, which is a protected designation of origin. It's a distinction, it's a protection and preservation of their product that's tied to a very specific geographical area, so their production methods and the unique characteristics of their product. Because of their special location between the Alps and the Adriatic coast, but they're also close to vineyards and olive groves, this allows the honey to have unique flavor profiles and incredible depth. It draws from oak and acacia, sage, chestnut, linden, and all different kinds of florals. So if you buy honey with this designation on it, it means that it is of the highest quality and can only come from this area. It is just exactly like the same kind of designation that Champagne has.
And
Champagne has a PDO, means it can only come from that region. You can only say it's Champagne if it's from that region.
And that's like Brunello di Montalcino.
And Parmigiano Reggiano cheese and Kalamata olives. There are multiple different kinds of foods and beverages that have that PDO distinction. So it's all tied together. So that is true for the honey in that region, which I thought was interesting.
And that's why it's so expensive.
Yes, another reason. True.
So after our spendy snacks, we arrived down in Split in the early afternoon, which we planned so that we could get there in the daylight. And we headed for Marjan Hill, and we were going to be staying there for 4 days.
Yeah, so do you remember, I thought it was crazy. The one thing that I really distinctly remember coming into Split, besides the very busy traffic, but this was absolutely wild. We had the car windows up because we had the air conditioning cranking. It gets really hot in the summer in Croatia, by the way, and we were there in August. But anyway, as we drove into town, we heard this loud buzzing noise. And
While we're driving,
we're like, is it the radio? No, is it the car making noise? What the heck is it? And then when we stepped out of the car, the buzzing was even louder, and we realized it didn't go away. It was cicadas.
the once every 14 or 17 years or whatever it is, it's some ungodly number, and they come out once in that time, and that was the time we were there. It was deafening. We had no idea they could be so loud. It was really unbelievable. I guess it's something that happens, in the Mediterranean, but we have them in other places around the world too. But it's not just there. But not to worry. They don't bite. They don't sting. They are just really noisy, and after a while you get used to it. It's kind of like a white noise. It's kind of actually nice to sleep.
It's like a background noise, yeah. But boy, was that loud. It was like, what is going on here? Yeah, very interesting. So, because we had our kids with us, we didn't want to stay in a hotel in this particular trip. So, we knew this was one area that we wanted to like slow down and relax and enjoy ourselves. And if you listen to part one, we kind of we ran ourselves a little bit ragged. And so now here in Croatia, part two, we are slowing down a little bit. So in Split, we were actually there for 4 nights. And so we were in this Marjan Hill area, which is a peninsula on the western edge of Split. So it's not right in the center of town.
It's a 5-minute drive. It's really
It's
close.
close, but yeah, it's not walkable though. It's a recreational area. It has beaches and hiking trails, and we just thought it would be more fun for the kids to be there. Had it just been the two of us, we probably would have stayed nearer into town where all the restaurants and the shops and the nightlife are, but it was good for them.
So, yeah, my favorite part for this place was that it was up on a hill. It was overlooking the sea. They had an outdoor shower, which I love always. And the guy that owned it and that bought this way back a long time before that he was a diver, professional diver, and he adorns his walkways with treasures that he's found on dives. So like sunken treasures and pots from like 2,000 years ago that are like broken pots, but they're sitting on the edges of his paths. It was fascinating to see all this history. And there's also like 2 or 3 little cottages areas on the property that we had all to ourselves.
So I believe this Airbnb is still active today. I did look it up, and it was called Villa Karina, Karina, if you want to look it up. And it was really a picture perfect, idyllic setting inside a forested park. And this one was a bit of a splurge for us. It was a little bit more expensive than we normally do, but it was absolutely worth it. And what you sacrifice in the convenience to town, we gained in tranquility and beauty and proximity to nature and a truly unforgettable stay.
We also had our car with us, so parking in Split would have been an issue. And out here on the peninsula, we were able to park right outside of our property with a permit because you can't park in this park. It is a big, huge park is what this place is. And there's very few houses out on this peninsula. This is one of them where you get to stay, which you're really out there all alone in a way. And we got to park right there. So if we wanted to go into Split, we would just go in, park the car, and pay a meter, which was difficult, and we'll talk more about that. But for the most part, it was very slick for us to be able to do it this way.
Yeah, and they actually do have Uber, but that didn't work very good for us either.
We tried it, and we didn't wait. They didn't come, so we...
Yeah, that wasn't successful. But anyway, Split is Croatia's second largest city. The historical center is a UNESCO World Heritage Site that is over 1,700 years old. And the Old Town area is bordered by a long promenade. It's in front of the sea called the Riva, and it's the social hub of Split. It's lined with restaurants and outdoor patios and benches and really has that cafe culture that we love about Europe. But what Split is really famous for is its 4th century Diocletian's palace. And this palace now has been turned into this huge area that encompasses bars and shops and hotels and restaurants. And I kind of looked around. I'm like, where is this palace that they keep talking about? I don't understand. Well, literally everything you see, all the buildings basically are the palace. They've just turned it all into the whole town is like the palace, and it's now all the shops and restaurants. And it was confusing at first.
There's one iconic shot where you get to see this black and white photo, like the black and white painting photo of the palace, and that's it. Because there's really not like you don't get to stand back and go, "Ooh, look at the palace." It intertwines with all these shops and everything else that's in there. It's just kind of, it's just, you're in it.
It's all functional now.
Yeah.
It was bizarre. It's not what I expected.
In the center of it is, I may butcher this, but Peristil Square. I think that's how you say it. I think that's how you say it. And every day at noon, they have a reenactment of the changing of the guard, which is kind of, it's kind of for tourists, but
Totally
for tourists, but it's pretty neat to see, and you got to go do it.
They're all dressed up like
they have a welcome speech by the Emperor Diocletian himself. And the best seats, if you're going to go do this, which everybody goes and does, so you're going to do this if you're in Split, it's in this little square. There's like these raised platform, stone seats, but at the top there's some that have like red, like velvet kind of cushions and stuff. Get something at that Luxor Cafe, that's right there. If you buy something, you can sit in their seats and you get there a little bit early, so you're there in time to to have good seats. You buy coffee, sit there, wait for the show to start, and you have the elevated view where you get to see everything, and that's the best way to see it.
Yeah, it was a good spot. And it's hard stone, and you're waiting for quite a while. It's
You
not
want a
that
cushion.
comfortable. So you definitely want the cushion. And there were a lot of people that tried to just sit down on those, and they would get shooed away by the waiter or the waitress that would come out. And they're like, no, you can't sit there. You have to buy something. And we're like, fine, we'll buy a coffee. That's
Give
fine.
us coffee.
No problem. So we enjoyed taking in all the shops in that area and kind of wandering around the historic area. But it is really busy. It's August. It is packed with tourists. So if you want to escape the crowds and do something really fun, then you got to get out on the water. So probably, and we still talk about it to this day, our favorite excursion ever as a family was on a catamaran excursion out of Split. So we had the most spectacular day, and Tony will tell you more about it.
So we found it on Viator, and it was called, in quote, like full day catamaran cruise through Paklini Islands, including swim stops at Brac, Solta, and a visit to Hvar. HVAR, and it's Hvar.
It was a very long title.
It's a long title,
but that's what it was called. Yeah.
It was so lovely to be out on the water all day because it was, how hot it was. It was in the 90s to 100 degrees every day.
Yeah.
Hvar town it almost killed us with the heat. So we just kind of stayed close down by the water. We didn't go climbing up into the town too much, but it was very beautiful. When you're sailing into that harbor at Hvar, you see the fortress way up at the top of the hill, and they say, all right, we're going to have like 2-3 hours here. And you're like, oh my God, that's going to take us like an hour and a half to just, hike up there an hour. It doesn't, but you feel like it's going to in that heat. So we chose not to. We wanted to stay down close to the boat, get some ice cream, do some shopping. It was great. But in the town, that fortress up top is imposing. It's beautiful, and it's something that you want to take photos of for sure.
Yeah, we immediately were like, yep, that's not happening. We're not going to go see that, even though it looks really cool. The other thing that was really amazing is you're pulling into that harbor where all the yachts.
Oh, high-end
Super
yachts there.
fancy. And we actually heard that the day before we were there, I think, the Kardashians were there. They'd been there on their yacht, had pulled into the harbor.
They rented we were looking, we had fun doing this. By the way, it's really kind of cool when you're in these areas and you're out boating. These yachts, they all have like a name on the back, right? Well, you can go on to a website that you can look
just
up.
Google.
Yes, but I think there's actually designated websites to the yachts and who owns them and whatnot, and you can see how much they're worth, how big they are, how big their staff. It's really fun, and you can actually know if it's owned by a famous person. It'll show that on there.
Sometimes it's just a corporation,
Right.
But yeah, and I do think they had a rented yacht, but whatever. Very
So
bougie.
we were sharing space with the Kardashians.
Yes.
We're very important.
Unfortunately, so it was a little bit windy that day. So due to the uncooperative winds, we didn't get to go to Brach. I think it would have taken too much time because the wind was just, it would have been calculating.
Which was fine.
We didn't care. It didn't matter to us at all. Our kids loved it best when the catamaran was actually anchored and we could all just jump off the diving boards and sunbathe in the netting. We had a really lovely lunch that they provided and had drinks all day long. But really the most fun that we had was just meeting people on the boat. So we hung out with a trio of French women that were hysterical, and they were in their early 20s. So our young teenage daughters thought that was really cool and fun to hang out with them. And then we met a really interesting young military couple from the United States and two young couples from Ireland that we'd had so much fun with that we actually met back up with them for drinks at an Irish pub when we got to Dubrovnik a few days later. So that was kind of fun.
Surprisingly, we are still friends with all of them on Facebook or on different sites. We talk and comment, and this has been a little bit of time since then, but we may meet up with some of these people again at some point. It's really a unique group that we met, French, Irish, and American, and we all just happened to be on the same boat and had a blast, having fun dancing and swimming. So
it was a great
by
day.
the way, we should mention a little bit, since we didn't cover it right away in the beginning, this being part 2. If you listen to part 1, this was our anniversary trip that we decided to bring our kids on. So me and her travel and the extras. So
true.
So if you're wondering, like, why are your kids with you on this?
True, we forgot to mention that.
Yeah, it's an anniversary trip. Well, we mentioned it in part 1, but in this one, maybe get a little background context. But
think twice about that, people.
no, it was the first week, hell. Second week, wonderful travels with the kids.
Yes,
but
this
had to adapt.
portion of the trip was much, much better. The first portion was kind of crazy and chaotic and fast paced, and that kind of trashed everybody.
Well, they were not used to that international travel where they're on the go and we constantly traveling and moving.
Packing, unpacking.
Yep, and that takes a toll. By the second weekend, they were pros at it and could roll with any punch, and we were really enjoying ourselves at that point.
Yeah, true.
So, I didn't mention if we hadn't mentioned before, this excursion, I almost missed it.
You did. I was so worried.
Because I dropped them off and said, I'll go find parking. You guys go get checked in for the boat. They did that. I had so many problems. I was having people, and I finally kind of just said, I think I got it. I don't know. And I left the car in a parking spot and I sprinted for the boat. And we had no phones to be able to talk to each other at that time. I was just on a dead run trying to get to the boat in time. And I think I got it as they were just like, we're going to pull out without them.
We were too cheap back then to get cell phone coverage when we traveled. We only did like Wi-Fi only. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
We need our phones too much, but yeah, so that was lucky then.
But Split with the boat tours is also a great spot. If you want to go and just kind of like hunker down in one spot, Split is a really good spot for it in Croatia because from there you can take so many different day trips. You can go to the islands. There's so many islands out there that are great. Then you also can go ATVing. You can go, take a day trip up to Plitvice to the national park. And what was the other national park? There's
I'm glad you mentioned that because the other park that we mentioned was Kirka. And we said in part 1 that you were able to swim in those waterfalls.
You used to be able to.
Guess
they
what?
Just outlawed
I just found out that, you can't anymore. So,
sorry.
So, yeah, that's unfortunate. That's too bad. Okay, so 4 nights is what we had in Split, and we just relaxed in and out of the water and did the beaches. And then we headed south to Dubrovnik, but not without a few interesting stops along the way that we have to mention.
So if we haven't mentioned it already, which I think we probably have a lot, we're huge fans of the show Game of Thrones. And
I don't know. I don't think we have talked about that.
I think we've mentioned the different spots, like when I think with Ireland, I think we've talked about it a couple of podcasts where we've mentioned a spot, but we like to take tours and we love seeing where places were filmed. It kind of gives you an insight as to where something that you've seen. And when you're in Croatia, a lot of Game of Thrones was filmed there. And there's some really cool places. So one of the places that we went to was just outside of Split. And we had to stop. So
yeah, and didn't you just finish watching the series again, or aren't you doing it
I'm
now?
in the middle of watching it for a second time. And wow, if you are a fan, I highly recommend doing it because when you go back, like it's 8 seasons. So like seasons 1, 2, and 3. Everybody knows, like, I think it's season 3, episode 5, but, or 4, but the Red Wedding. But everything else, there's so many little nuggets and clues and things that you go, oh my gosh, I should have seen that coming with certain things. And now you go back and you see characters way before you really thought you were seeing them. And sometimes they introduced them and they reappeared later. It's kind of fun to see.
But you also just watched the prequel.
Oh yeah, I watched. There's a new one out. Yeah, there's a few.
All right, so
now.
he's in the moment right now, so it's completely
so this is
relevant
fun to talk about
you. Yeah, because you're kind of doing that now. So anyway, approximately 8 miles northeast of Split, which for us was right on the way for us to get back on the highway. We wanted to take just a little bit of time to go see the Klis K-L-I-S fortress, which was the home of Marine from Game of Thrones, or hereby we're going to say G-O-T, just because it might be easier. But so this is where Daenerys Stormborn, Queen of the Dragons, she freed the enslaved, and it was a really powerful part of the show. However, if you're not interested in G-O-T, that's fine. This fortress is so cool, it doesn't need a TV show for its accolades. This is a really well-preserved medieval fortress from the 3rd century, and it is so well situated, built into a rocky mass, and it's totally inaccessible on 3 sides, and it straddles an important mountain pass. It was a highly desired prime defensive location that was conquered and reconquered by all of the big parties in this area time and time again. So it played a really important role in the history of Croatia, and today it is one of the best preserved examples of defensive architecture in the entire region. So it's still well worth a visit.
Yeah, you got these soaring birds of prey like eagles and stuff flying around the top of it. You're up on the top of this mountain looking down on the Adriatic and Split down below, and it's stunning. It's well worth it for if you have kids with you. They'll love having run around playing king, playing in their old ruins. Um, you know, also it's kind of cool because it looks so different than what it did obviously in GOT because they do CGI. But you can actually see if you go and watch the show and then you watch this, you're like, oh, I can see how CGI builds up that wall. They make this, and there's a lot of cases in Croatia where you got to see that where the CGI is done on top of old buildings to make them look like they're in the time of whatever.
It sometimes makes you wonder, why do they even use that film location for the set?
I don't know.
If they're going to
They could
make
just
it
make
look
it
so
all-
different in CGI.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
So
interesting to me.
after that, we wanted to go because we were driving down to Dubrovnik, but we had a slight day trip, side trip that we wanted to do. Is we wanted to dart into Bosnia Herzegovina and go to a city called Mostar. Now, it's a city that you're like, what? Never heard of it. You've probably seen pictures of it. You just didn't know it. And we'll explain. But Mostar is very famous in the area, and it's got an unbelievably beautiful bridge that Julie will tell you more
Yeah,
about.
if you look at travel porn, and by that I mean,
Whoa.
I love travel porn, and what I mean by that is when you just scroll through like beautiful places in the world to go see. Like I
This
love that
pops
kind of
up a
stuff.
lot.
This is one of those things you'll see. One of these amazing bridges. So Mostar, the town, is known for its Turkish style houses, and then this bridge is called the Starry Most. It's a medieval arched bridge. So it does show up on tons of travel blogs and all kinds of stuff. It's very picturesque, but sadly, the original one was destroyed during the 1990s conflict, but it was rebuilt in part with the help of an international scientific community established by UNESCO. So now it is back in all its glory, and it is perched above the Neretva River, which is a really unique, like emerald green color. It's really,
So
really
pretty.
pretty. And it's because that there's oxidized copper in the rocks that causes that color. The bridge, if you're standing on the bridge, it has views of the Koski Mehmed Pasha Mosque. And there are
Mehmed.
numerous insane people, otherwise known as 60-foot jumpers, that will shock and awe you with their near suicidal jumps into the river. Actually closer to 80 feet, maybe?
Yep,
I don't know,
yep.
somewhere in there. Okay, so we found a really cool vantage spot at a nearby restaurant that had a lovely shady veranda, and we could sit there and have a lunch and watch these crazy people.
As we sat there and eating, you'd be waiting and you'd see somebody standing up on the railing and you're like, all right, they're going to go. And all of a sudden you hear the crowd screaming and then watch them just plummet down. It was so cool to watch them jump in. I was so jealous, but
No
that's,
way.
I was jealous, but that's 20 feet above my range. And I can go 60, and 60 is a long jump, but 80 is, you better know what you're doing. And if you do it wrong, you're going to.
I don't know. So those
But
guys,
anybody can go up there and do it.
those guys, most of them were working for tips. So
Yeah,
like
they're
they
looking
were
for
like,
money.
come on, put some money in my hat, and if you put enough in my hat, I'll jump. So that's how they were kind of making their
So-
living.
I don't know what was wrong with me that day in town, and maybe I'll get into a little bit, but my spidey senses were really firing, and I felt pretty uncomfortable the entire time we were in Mostar. I was worried about a rent-a-car. I was worried about my girls. I couldn't take my eyes off of them. It was weird. I had a rough time there, and because I was constantly worrying about things, and I really wanted to get back on the road. So because this is a short trip, like you'd kind of. You take a 45-minute drive out of Croatia into Bosnia Herzegovina, and then you see this town, and then you kind of tuck back down along the border, and you jump back into Croatia down by Dubrovnik. So
Well, and you sometimes get antsy on road trips in the sense like you just want to get to your destination. Like sometimes if we're driving just a couple hours in Minnesota, he doesn't want to stop for anybody to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, there's
like
no
let's
peeing.
just get to where we're going. So you don't love that, but this was something totally different than
Yep.
that. It was really bizarre. I didn't feel uncomfortable whatsoever. I thought it was absolutely lovely, and I didn't really understand what was going on with you. But I respected the fact that sometimes you just have to trust your gut, and you weren't having any fun by any stretch of the imagination because of it. So we all agreed to, okay, let's head out. So we were able to buy some trinkets from the little market stalls along the river and see the bridge, which is really what I wanted to do. So that was okay with me. I will say that along our drive, we did notice that Bosnia still seemed like it was still very deep in the recovery process in comparison to Croatia, because we saw like a lot of buildings that were partially demolished or still had bullet holes. So it was eye-opening. It was kind of sad to see.
All right, let me give a little explanation because I don't want people to listen to this and go, wow, that kind of sounds like a scary place. I don't want to go there. He was freaking out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, let me give some background. We had a rental car. I'm driving in a country that we were not permitted to go to with that agreement. So technically we were not supposed to go into
But
Bosnia.
how do they expect us to get there? You basically
No,
have
when
to
you
go through.
when you come down along the there is Bosnia has a little tiny jutting out to the Adriatic. It's only like a few miles, not even 15 miles, and now there's a bridge that goes around it. You don't have to go through Bosnia anymore. You can stay in Croatia the whole way. But when we were there, they were still building the bridge, and you have to drive through. But you go, basically just a short jaunt through Bosnia, right along the coast, but you stay in Croatia pretty much for the most part. We were actually going into Bosnia, going into Mostar, sightseeing, stuff like that. So we were not supposed to have the car where we were. That's one. We drove so close that we kept on saying, well, let's get closer because we don't have a lot of time here. So as we were driving closer, we got within like 200 yards of the bridge. Most people are parking a half mile to a mile away in parking lots. And we kept on just kind of like meandering down these little tiny streets. And also we got to the part where we're in like an area that we should not be parked. Like how we got there and how we didn't have a problem, I have no idea. But they had gates that lowered and opened for us. So I was like, where are we
this guy's
parking?
like, you can park over
Yeah,
here.
you park
It's
in my
okay.
place. Okay, now that's 2. 3, I had all of our luggage in the car. So now I don't like stopping for long extended periods when you leave the luggage in the car, especially in a country that we don't know the language, you don't know the people, we don't know anything. If we get robbed and that car gets broken into while we're out looking at this bridge for an hour, we are screwed. And I was worried about our bags. Then as we started walking down these streets that are beautiful. They're so pretty. I saw these little dark alleys everywhere, like little tiny narrow alleyways that shut off.
I don't think they were dark alleys, but
they were dark.
You
'cause
saw
they were shadowed.
arteries of exits that.
Right. That were like, if I was walking and our daughters were behind me or whatever, where I can see, if they got grabbed and got pulled into one of them, you wouldn't even know 1 second later where they went. Like you couldn't spin and see where they had gone. It was that kind of a tightness in those streets. So because, oh, by the way, and here's the stressor on that one. Don't ever watch the movie Hostel 2. It's a horror movie, and I had seen it prior to this trip. And if you know, you know. And if you don't, just know
I have not seen it.
My wife is not allowed to see it. She wouldn't see it anyways. But so I was like on edge thinking that, but you know what? Then we got back to the car. They were polite. They're like, thank you for coming, basically. And they were raising the gate and they were so smiley and friendly, similar to other experiences we've had. And as soon as I drive, I'm like, wow, that was dumb. They were so nice and so wonderful. And everybody was so good. It was lovely. I should have enjoyed it, but
I don't think any of it is dumb. I think that you have to trust your instincts. And they were shouting at you that day.
They were.
And so that's fine. It's fine. I was happy to get you out of there and back on the road. So,
well,
yeah.
That is the first time I've ever felt that traveling. But it might have been all the circumstances that we had that I was kind of worried about. So I was worried about a lot of different things at that moment. And I'm
it was
usually
a perfect
not.
storm.
I usually am pretty, let's go. Let's just go have fun and try it and do things. But so after that, we moved on and we drove down, and our next stop was down into Dubrovnik, which is nicknamed the Pearl of the Adriatic for its exceptional beauty. And the whole town has been protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1979. So that's a pretty old one. It's also known as King's Landing and home of the Red Keep in Game of Thrones. So if you know that, that's where that is. There are so many filming locations in Dubrovnik that you can take a tour and go and see lots of them, as we did.
We did. We actually took a 2-hour tour, and I felt so bad for our younger daughter because she knew nothing about Game of Thrones. She was
Our
too
older
young.
one did and had watched it.
Our older one had watched it. Our younger one, no, that would not be appropriate, and it really wasn't her kind of content that interested her anyway. But she was a trooper because it was hot, and we just kept, going to all these different sites that she knew nothing about, and so I give her a lot of credit. But it's actually pretty cool if you are a big fan. So I highly recommend that. But So we stayed again 4 nights in Dubrovnik, and we stayed in La Piazza apartment. It's an Airbnb, which, by the way, is still active. So you could still stay there if you wanted to. It's right in Gundelic Square at the base of the Jesuit stairs, which is where Circe had to do her walk of shame.
Shame.
So this is also where they have a wonderful farmers market on the weekend. But here's a tip. Whatever you do not touch the produce. So you can point to whatever you want and the shopkeeper will get it for you, but touching the goods is not allowed and the shopkeeper will get very
If you pick
upset.
it up, you buy it.
No,
No, they'll get mad
no.
too. They don't even want you to pick it up.
We watched this woman who I think had gotten off a cruise ship. She was an American, unfortunately. She got off a cruise ship. She touched an apple or something. And he started screaming at her. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I'll pay for it. I'll buy it. He's like, no, you don't get to have it now.
Yeah, he wouldn't let her have it after
Nope.
that. That's right.
And I was like, oh, thank goodness I didn't do that, because it might have occurred to me to like squeeze an orange or something, like see how it is. But so don't do that. But I also, side note, should mention, this was important, that there are no cars allowed in the Old Town. So if you're staying in the Old Town area, you're going to
As we
get
were.
dropped off from your taxi or your bus, or in our case, Tony had a rental car. And you get dropped off at the top of the town.
Well, there's two gates.
Two
like
big gates,
on
yeah.
far opposite ends of the town. But the main gate is where everybody comes in.
The
and that's where
pile
all the
gate.
taxis and all of the buses.
Yeah, and so you get dropped off and you roll across like the bridge and through this gate, and then you go down these ancient city streets that are curvy and bumpy with your suitcases and the roller wheels. And we had to go so far. Like we're basically like 3/4 of the way through that town is where our Airbnb was.
Well, here's the problem. I had the car, and this is where I was dropping the car off because we weren't going to use it anymore. So this was the end destination for the car. So I dropped you off at the gate. You were meeting the Airbnb person inside at the gate, and I said, "You guys go. I'll take the car back," which was still like like 5-6 blocks away. I had to go drop it and then come back into town, walk into town, and then go and find you guys. I knew where it was, but you guys had to take the bags. I didn't get to help you at all.
Yeah.
And we weren't backpacking at this point. This
Nope,
is
we sure weren't.
wheeled on cobblestone, like old town roads.
And this was a 15-day trip. So we each had
they
a
were big bags.
big suitcase plus our carry-ons. So there was 3 of us for 4 giant suitcases and carry-ons. It was a lot.
If you're doing Dubrovnik and you're going to stay in the walled city, in the heart of it, bring backpacks. Don't bring wheeled bags if you can do it, if you can pull it off, because
Yeah.
it's a haul getting them into your place.
It is definitely, and it's hot. It's very, very hot. So yeah, it was a schlep.
So despite the hassle, we did opt to stay in the old town because we love history and we wanted to be there in the center of it all, especially with the girls. And we had gotten the Airbnb right above the shame steps, which was pretty cool to us because even our daughter reenacted the walk of shame, not naked, but you know what I mean. Anyways, we did make a pretty good video of it. But for us, it was a little bit more money to be in the town, but we wanted to do that. And then we didn't have to worry about getting to and from and trying to get places and taking, because if it was just the 2 of us, we might be able to do that better. Maybe next time we would, but that and being in that old town, I something that I have grown so dear and love about traveling to Europe is the Swifts. When the Swifts come out in the evening, just, at sunset. And
should we tell everybody that swifts are birds?
Oh yeah, probably should have said that. Sorry. It's podcast number 31 episodes of mentioning birds. Anyways, probably the swifts come down and they go after mosquitoes and bugs and whatnot, and they come down in groups of like 10 to 20, 30 birds, and they swoop down into the alleys in the roads, and they just fly above your head at breakneck speed, ripping through, and they have this cool whistling, calling that they do as they do it, and it's such a lovely sound.
And they're long corridors. Some of these streets are quite long, so they
It's
have a good runway that they're like whoosh, flying down.
It's really cool, and I love that. I think about it all the time.
And what was your other thing that you love to do in the nighttime too? Peppino's ice cream shop.
Oh God, yeah, the ice cream shop. The ice cream is really good there in town in Dubrovnik.
I mean, we are in Croatia, but you can still get amazing gelato. So it feels like Italy, but it was.
And it was so
wonderful.
hot, we were getting ice cream every single day.
Oh my gosh, seriously. So we absolutely loved Dubrovnik. As we just mentioned, We were there in August, so it was really hot, and it is super crowded at that time. The restaurants in the old town were really expensive and nothing major to write home about, but we still loved it, and we wouldn't have changed a thing, not a thing. The limestone streets, they gleam. It is like
They're so
nothing
smooth
I've
and
ever seen
shiny.
before. They literally had the footsteps of millions of people over 1,400 years, that town is. And it's like polished them to a shimmer. They glow. It's the prettiest city I think I've ever seen, like an old town.
Agreed.
And you can't even explain it till you see it. Um, I don't know. I felt like we had to be in the old town for our first time there. Like that's just where we wanted to be. But here's a really good tip, and we've said this many other times in our podcast too. Get up early so that you can have the town to yourself in all of its glory before the masses descend upon it. However, this is a side note for further research for you. I have done a lot of reading, and if we were to go back to Croatia, and particularly this area, I think we would stay in Cavtat. And that's just 20 minutes outside of Dubrovnik, and it's only 5 kilometers from the airport, so it's super convenient. And it's going to offer a more affordable and more well rounded vacation option than just the old town city. So, Cavtat has a charming harbor, it has like a palm tree lined waterfront promenade that wraps around the whole peninsula, and it's filled with sidewalk cafes and shops. It has beautiful churches and a historic town square where the tourists and the locals alike will gather in the evening. And this is kind of where you might feel like you met the real Croatia instead of just kind of a historic, almost museum like city town. So, Katvat is a great jumping off spot for all kinds of tours on land or on the water, out to the islands, all kinds of things. And you can easily take a day trip just into Dubrovnik to get your feel of the medieval old town if you want to do that.
Yeah, you can go there as often as you want. It's very close in that respect. So.
Yeah, I kind of want to do that next time. I think I'm excited about
And
that.
speaking of the medieval old town, we highly recommend that you get up early, like Julie said, but to go walk the ancient ramparts, the top of the wall of the fort. Basically, the city is a fort; it's all walled. So, the Adriatic on one side, and then you got the hill, the mountaintop behind you on the other side, and then you got the ports in the island, in the fortress itself. So, you get up, you go early, right away, because it gets so hot during the day, and this is mostly out in the open. There's this walkway is 16 towers, 3 fortresses. You get a ticket at the main gate area. You go up to the stairs, and you do a whole circle around the entire city, walking the walls. It is stunning. You have to do it, but you got to do it early, because if you try and do it in the afternoon, you're gonna die. I mean, it's just that hot. My favorite thing on that thing was you look down and you see all these clay red rooftops inside the city, and you can see where you're staying and where you're going to rest, and you can kind of see these corridors and stuff, but it's because it's really jammed inside the walls. But then there's one spot when you get towards near the end and you're at one of the highest points, you look down and you see a basketball court behind a church.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yeah, I do. I remember the photo
so
of it too.
this basketball court is 3/4 of a basketball court with an angled back corner. So like the basketball court is like a half court and then a little bit more, and it's angled. This isn't a full court basketball. They don't have space for it. So they just made what they could, and it is such a awkward looking basketball court.
That is funny. My favorite part about walking that, and keep in mind too, I think people should know that depending on your level of fitness, I mean, there's a lot of steep steps. It goes up, it goes down, it goes around. It's
2 kilometers.
It's just shy, I think, yeah, of 2 kilometers. So it's a hike, and as you said, it takes some time. So even if you start in the morning, you're going to be approaching the heat of the day. But one of my favorite things is while you're walking, you sometimes hear the bells tolling in the churches.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really cool. You can you get that overview and that really, I don't know, magical feeling when the bells are tolling. But yeah, if it gets hot, seriously, it will kill you. So one of the cool things that you can do before you go up there or afterwards when you drink all your water, you can fill up your water bottle in the Onofrio's fountain, which dates back to 1438. So it's over 600 years old. It's right in that main area by the Pile Gate, I believe. It's just down from there. So you can fill up before
Everybody's filling up. You can't miss it.
Everybody's doing it. And it's wild. It is fresh. It is cold. It's pristine water. We mentioned it in the intro. It's huge. It's a really huge circular fountain. And I just find that absolutely amazing that it can still be that fresh and beautiful and pure.
And if you need some if you get a headache from all that heat,
Because I would.
which you did, you can, and you're looking for a pharmacy, go to the pharmacy that's right across. It's really near that fountain. It's called the Franciscan Pharmacy. It is the third oldest pharmacy in Europe, I believe, from 1317. So they're not open on Sunday, so don't get a headache on Sunday.
Yeah, be prepared. Well, that's awesome. And if you do get too hot and you can't go to the pharmacy, then our other favorite thing to do was go to the Booza bar.
Yes.
And Booza is Buza.
Yeah.
Looks like Buzza, kind of Booza bar. There's actually two of them, which was super confusing at first. But there's a larger one and a smaller one, and we did both. But you kind of need to work your way around through the narrow streets to find the doorway that's kind of like cut into the medieval wall.
You just have to know which one it is. It's not marked. There's nothing that says Booza
It took
bar.
us a while to figure it out. But that's part of the fun, I guess.
That is
anyway,
the fun.
But that leads out to the rocks that surround the perimeter of the whole city, basically.
You're on the outside of the walls.
Yeah, you're on the outside. And then there's a cliffside bar. So there's got tables and chairs, and you can set up shop there and have your aperitif, your cocktail, a snack, whatever. The kids would cliff jump and swim, and we were there every day, sometimes twice a day. And we absolutely loved it. And we would sit there and enjoy the sunset. And I thought it was so cool, like when the pirate ship would go by.
Yeah.
There's some tour.
It's a tour
where
that's
you
on a
can
pirate
go on a
ship.
pirate ship. But it is awesome when you're sitting there on this medieval castle wall and a pirate ship goes by. You feel like you are in another time.
And the really cool thing about Julie's describing is that when you look at Dubrovnik from the water, and you've seen pictures of it, everybody has, these are the rocks that are on the outside of the wall, at the base of the wall, and then the formidable wall is up above that. These are the rocks that are down below by the water that they built the bar into. Like, this is on the outside.
Yeah.
You would never even know this is there unless somebody told you. If you were just going to Dubrovnik and didn't know about the Booza bar, you would miss out because you would never find this. It's just a painted door that with no signage on it, and you step through, and then you go down these stairs, and you're outside on this gorgeous patio, bar area with all these rocky outcroppings for you to put down your towels and go swimming and cliff jumping. We did a lot of cliff jumping there.
Mm-hmm.
It was so.
I even did some cliff jumping there.
Yes, you did. It's really cool. It's worth it.
That was our favorite thing to do. We loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
So another thing we recommend doing late in the afternoon is to, take the cable car, which is outside of the walls, and you kind of climb up through the town a little bit
You
to
go
get
out
to the
of
base.
the other gate, right?
Yeah, you can go to either gate, but you go
No, I mean
out.
the other gate, not the pile gate, but the other
Right.
main gate. It's kind
Either
of outside
one.
that one.
You got to work your way up the hill a little bit to get to the cable car. The cable car then takes you up to the top of the mountain. And when you're up there, that's Mount Surd Hill for the sunset views. There's a restaurant up there. It's very famous now, and you definitely have to have reservations if you want to have good seats overlooking Dubrovnik, because Dubrovnik is right below you, and it is everything you could imagine.
It's
for
very
photography.
romantic.
We spent
But not for a family. of 4.
hours doing photography up there of the sunset, of our kids, of us. Some of the best photos we've ever taken of our kids and us are up there with these, just the panoramic view of the Adriatic with Dubrovnik below you there's nothing better.
With the easing sun and oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, go to Magic Hour.
Magic Hour for sure. But if you want a little bit more action than we've discussed so far, we've done a lot of relaxing and swimming and hanging out. But if you want more action, be more physical, then we would recommend taking the kayak tour out to the nearby Lokrum Island. So there are a lot of different tour companies that you can take. We signed up for one, and we happened to be the only ones taking it that day. So we had basically a private tour. We had one guy that led us, and so that was kind of nice. It was
Luksha.
just our family and Luksha, yep. And I will say it's a pretty decent paddle out to that island. And going out there wasn't so bad. Coming back was a little trickier because it was getting
Well, we
towards
were
evening.
tired.
Well, we were tired, but it was choppy or something.
Yeah.
So depending on the water conditions, but all 4 of us were able to do it just fine. And then once you get out there, you can take your time, kind of leisurely kayaking around the island, dipping into coves for swimming. We did some snorkeling. He brought some snorkel gear for us, so that was kind of fun. There's some fish and some more cliff jumping. We did a lot of dipping into coves, but the other kind of dipping that we saw was skinny dipping because there is a beach area there that allows nudity.
Okay, now the funny thing about this is that, it's Europe, so you just got to go with it a little bit. But the area that is naked sunbathing area is right up against the cove with the best cliff jumping into this private little harbor.
Yes, unfortunately.
And where you have to climb up to get to the best cliff jumping is on the naked beach, the naked area. And this is all rocky outcroppings. So we see these people jump, like, we're doing this. So me and our daughters.
I stayed in my kayak to take photos
So
again.
we go to climb, and my daughter's in front of me. I'm behind them, and they're climbing up in front of me. And all of a sudden, my daughter turns around, looks at me like, oh my God. She climbed up, and right in front of her was a couple dudes. They're just sunbathing, completely naked as they climbed. She looked at me. She looked back, climbed right around them, and went up to the highest point and jumped off like a 40-foot, cliff.
And she wouldn't go back up there again.
She did, but our other daughter and we went up there multiple times because it was just such great cliff jumping. It was so awesome.
Well, I think at one point one of the dudes actually came over, stood at the end, and was like looking down
Watching.
and watching. And so
It was weird.
He's standing there in all this glory. It's like
Totally innocent, but it's just
he did
weird
it on purpose.
It's weird for Americans because we just don't. We're not
He
used to that.
did it on purpose. That's bizarre. But
It
yes,
was weird.
So just be aware that you might get caught off guard by that. But our tour guide, he did warn us ahead of time, like, hey, guys, this is the spot where, you might be seeing something. So if you don't want to do that, you want to avoid it, just keep on moving.
But when you're in Lokrum out on this island, because this is part of the tour, then you go onto the island itself, and there's a 12th century Benedictine monastery there that used to represent Karth, if you from Game of Thrones. So that's that. And there with the gardens and all that's with that, they actually have one of the Iron Thrones that they used in the show, and you can go and sit in it and take some photos sitting on the Iron Throne, which is pretty cool.
You can also visit the botanical gardens there or have lunch at the restaurant, which we did.
Oh, and the bunnies.
Okay, so they have peacocks strutting around, but they have gigantic, wacko, crazy, huge
They're the
bunnies.
size of dogs. They're huge.
They're enormous.
That threw us for a loop
They're like
when we first saw
mutant
them.
bunnies.
Yeah, we thought, oh, there's peacocks, and like, oh my God, look at the size of those bunnies. Bunnies were huge. Anyways, this is kind of fun.
Wild. Also, we should mention that if you don't want to kayak out there, there are ferries that take you out there too. So, okay, so we only had 4 days in Dubrovnik, and we could have filled it with all the wandering up and down the vertical streets, shopping, popping into the historic buildings and museums, taking way too many photos for our girls' Instagram stories, and swimming, blah, 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 blah. But here's the problem. We could not be this close to another majestic country and not be tempted.
I know, it's so close. We had to do it. So, yeah, we had a hard, so we found a company that took a tour to Kotor. So, Montenegro. Kotor is the town in Montenegro. Montenegro, the country, in case you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
For
Right
a day,
next
just
door.
for the day. So we get up really early in the morning. We went outside the gates where we met Baro. Baro was our private driver, and he was basically with us for the entire day.
Mm-hmm.
So he picked us up. We headed out, a whirlwind day adventure. There were multiple places to stop that we stopped along, because you kind of go down along the coast. You kind of tuck into the Bay of Kotor. And as you're doing that, we found a place to eat there on the water. Stunning views up the top of the mountains, looking down into the bay. So we took tons of photographs.
We have an amazing photo of you and I there.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best we've ever taken. The mountains are really green and steep, so they're really pretty that way too. So you got the blue water with the green hillsides. It's very pretty. Bay of Kotor is known as Europe's southernmost fjord. It looks like a fjord out of Norway, but with green and blue water. But it looks like it could be in Norway.
It is really stunning. So the town of Kotor itself is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, as is almost everything in
Yeah, I
this
know.
region,
In
for
Europe,
God's sake.
in the United States, like, oh no. But there, all the old towns
Throw
and
a
all the old
rock
places.
and you hit another one.
But we loved going to them because it kind of. Someday we're gonna have to map out our UNESCO spots because we've been to really a lot of them, and
yeah, there's so many, it's daunting. But yeah,
we do search them out. If we're in a really odd place where it's not like something that's well known, if we see that there's a UNESCO World Heritage Site that's nearby, we make it a point to go and try and see it.
true. But this one, it's the whole town again, just like Dubrovnik. But the town of Kotor is much smaller than Dubrovnik. It's really quaint, cute little streets, all of the things you would want it to have. One of the things, though, that we wanted to do that day is we wanted to hike the hill behind the town all the way up to
Mountain.
the chapel of St. Ivan, because it would have really impressive views of the city and the harbor and surrounding area. But that did not happen. We got as far as the little chapel of St. Juan, which was only a part of the way up. and we literally had to call it quits because it was 106 degrees and
High humidity.
we were on fire from the inside out. And I think our youngest was like going to die.
We were dripping. It was
It
just
was horrible. We
weren't good for
so-
photos either.
oh
We
my
were-
God, it's terrible. Very
Uh,
uncomfortable.
So we had a hard time enjoying Montenegro the way we would like to have, only because of that heat. But we did very much enjoy stopping at the cute little town of Persat.
Perast.
That's right.
Perast.
Perast. It's right in the
right.
center of the bay. So you get to see all parts of the bodies of water of the bay, and you get to see Kotor off in the distance and the inlet where you come in off the Adriatic. It's really a cool place
Really
to see
cute.
from. And great bell towers and churches and stuff there. But if nothing else, it confirmed to us that Julie and I definitely would want to come back and maybe spend a night or two there, not just a day trip from Dubrovnik, because you could probably find
In
a lot more things
Kotor
to
or
do.
Montenegro?
Both in general, because there's also some cities out on the coast that we would like to, go visit.
I could spend a lot of time in Montenegro.
Oh yeah, especially going down towards Albania, but not on this one because
Not on
this
this one.
It was. We go back when it's not August.
Not
like
August, for sure.
Not as hot as the Ninth Gate. I mean, it's
Oh my
just.
God.
it was so bad.
Yep, that is so true. But we did enjoy it. The girls just slept all the way back to Dubrovnik, and then I think we headed to the booze bar.
Yeah, we went back for a swim because that was the end of the day. It was getting towards sunset, and we had been gone all day. It was a long day of travel though. So back in Dubrovnik, where we finally ended our 15-day tour. It was 15 days, but we stopped in Ireland on the way there. We stopped in Ireland on the way back. We went to Slovenia. We went to Bosnia. We went to Montenegro. So it wasn't just
Italy.
all Italy. We ducked into
A little,
Italy because that's right up there. Trieste is right there by Slovenia. So this trip was not just Croatia, because when you do Croatia, it's so thin and narrow at some parts. Like, it's really easy to duck off and do these little side trips like we did in Slovenia. And you're like, hey, Slovenia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Montenegro, why not? Let's do it. So that took up
Classic meander travel.
totally. But, I don't know if I need to go back to Bosnia Herzegovina right now. Maybe some other day. But Montenegro I would like to. Slovenia I could do more to. Maybe go up to Lake Bled.
We tried to fit Lake Bled into our original itinerary. We just couldn't make it work.
No.
And Ljubljana too.
Yep.
We're like, we don't have enough time.
And Trieste was just like, we stopped over there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, had coffee, and then left because the girls had never been to Italy. And like, okay, well, guess what? Now you've been to Italy.
Yeah.
Check. But all in all, it was a awesome trip. First week was a little rough with traveling with kids, but I think anybody that has kids that travels kind of knows that and understands what that's like. But now, looking back, Julie, what was your favorite part of Croatia? What was your favorite thing you did in Croatia? And what was your least? I'll go first just because give you a second to think about it, because I know you haven't thought about
I do
this
have to
yet.
think
This
about
is
it.
off the cuff. I think that seeing all of it, not just one thing, but being able to say that, hey, we went from Pula and Istria and we saw what the north is like all the way down to Dubrovnik. I mean, Dubrovnik will always live in my brain as like the most beautiful town. It's just stunning. That's a favorite. But traveling around and seeing all of it, not just holding up in one spot, which would be nice, and relaxing. But now I know what a lot of Croatia looks like. We didn't get to Zagreb in the inland area, and there's a lot to see there. I'm not discounting that, but seeing what we saw a lot. I'm just really happy that we did that. It was probably my favorite thing that we did all of that.
Okay. I would say my favorite day was the catamaran day. However, you can do a catamaran in a lot of different places.
Right.
So I'm not going to say that was my favorite part of Croatia. I think that I have a soft spot for Split. I really like that Diocletian's palace kind of historical aspect, and then just that promenade that you can walk along. Like, I really want to go back there and spend more time. But in my mind's eye, when I think about this trip, I think about you and I and the girls walking down like the main street
In Dubrovnik.
in the evening when some of the buildings are all lit up.
They're
and
golden.
the swifts are flying and it's quiet and a little bit calmer, and it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's what I envision in my head a lot, is that. But then there's a flip side that envisions a future. So you didn't ask me this question, but what would I like to do in the future in this country. And I really think it would be super, super amazing to rent a boat and do some of the islands.
Island hopping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll do that with you.
Because there's a lot of really cool islands, and the islands have history and historic castles and fortifications and things to go see. But then also feel like you're kind of living in an island life and beaches, and I would really like to do that.
How about least? Anything that kind of rubbed you like,
The crowds.
okay, crowds for you?
You know what,
Crowds, I don't mind crowds ever.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's what I do mind, because there a lot of these, Venice and I mean all kinds of towns in the world are really struggling to find that balance between mass tourism,
Yep.
that still supports their economy that they desperately need, but then also it's destructive to their history, to their ecology, to their architecture. And so where's that balance of still being able to maintain the beauty of your history, but not have it
They're going to
destroyed?
probably do the same thing as Venice and start putting a tax for
If they haven't already,
for
I don't know,
for
maybe.
for excess tourism. Like too many people, you're gonna have to pay extra and to be able to just go there. And
It's less enjoyable when you are like literally body to body trying to get through a narrow passageway or something. Like, okay, this is not what I want to be doing.
the least for me was probably, and by the way, I love heat and I have no problems with heat. Was heat for my family. Like it was hot and it was hard on the kids at times. That high heat with younger.
You get crabby.
People get crabby, and when you're in 4 people, you're crabby. Crabby begets crabby. So, I did not. The heat caused a lot of that, I think. So.
Yeah, so if you have options when planning your vacation, and a lot of
Shoulder.
Americans don't, because they are, their kids have summer break and that's when they have to travel. But if you can travel outside of the really, really drastically hot summer months, I highly recommend that.
All right, so we got to wrap this up, but maybe we can talk a little bit about what's coming up. Maybe we haven't talked a lot about what's going on in our world right now besides just our travels, but trying to do that nomadic life where we're going to be on the road. We still have our dog, we still have family, we still have our girls.
Our house, yeah.
We're not traveling like we want to yet. And to pass some of the time, I've got another new job that I'm kind of putzing around with. I'm a barista, which, funny
So
enough,
cute.
I think we talked about this like back in a podcast, like episode 1 or 2 or 3. Like we're like, maybe I get a job doing a barista just to get out of the house and go talk to people. Because if you know me, I got to get my words in, or out. So being a barista is a great way to sit and talk to
And you
people.
love your coffee.
And I love my coffee. So I get free coffee when I'm working, and I get to talk to people. So
And one of the things we did this year to save money as well is we are sharing a car,
yeah,
which I never thought we would do. And we kind of did it out of duress. Our daughter needed a car drastically, and so I gave her mine, and then I thought, I'll just get another one later. And then we started sharing yours for a little bit, and it kind of just worked. We're like, you know what? Why go get another car? Let's
Right.
just see if we can make this work. And it's actually been lovely.
it's been great. I'll drop you off. You'll drop me off. Different things. Pick each other up at the end of the day.
I mean, your new coffee shop job is tricky because now there are some days I might need the car, and if I want it, I have to take you to work at 6:00 in the morning and drop you off.
We're old. We get up early now.
Well, we do. That's true. But
Anyways, okay, so listen, here we're at the end of this time. This is one of our longer podcasts. And if you're listening right now, that means you're pretty much a diehard and you're listening to us.
yeah, they're
But
still
here's-
here an hour
but
later.
I know. So here's the thing. We always say like, follow, do all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to make a special request. If you're listening and you're here at this point, can you please leave us a review? Good or bad, right? Obviously, hopefully it's good. Write what you think about us. Give us a rating. We need more of those. And it'd be nice if the people that are listening, that are loyal listeners, do that so that we can, because more of that pushes us out into the ether more. So we get more plays on people's, For You pages per se, in podcasting world, if they are reviewed. So please.
And I know that's hard. I don't take the time to do that very often either. So
I know.
it's something you have to conscientiously do, but we would appreciate that.
I'm talking to you. Please give us a review. If nothing else, go on, put a little thumbs up or whatever format you're listening to. We're on Podcast for Apple. We're on YouTube, and we're on Spotify. So, and we also have all of the socials. Now we have TikTok, we have Instagram, and we have Facebook. So join us there and like us on all those too. But review us today if you could.
Perfect.
So until next time,
Wheels up.